In Nigeria, we basically have three forms of businesses. We have the sole proprietorship or the sole ownership, we have the company or a corporation, and we have partnerships. And to understand each of these, we'll split them into five different sections. The first being ownership. See, we have a single for the sole proprietorship. We have the ownership is a single individual who owns and controls the business. The way he or she makes decision is that the owner has complete authority and autonomy in decision making. The liability for that business is the sole proprietor is personally responsible for all debts and legal obligations. Now, what this means, this is an interesting one. Let me not shroud it with language. This point of liability is very important because you see, if as a sole owned business or a sole proprietor business, the business and the individual are not separated in Nigeria. The certificate that CBN gives for sole ownership businesses is called the business name certificate. With a business name certificate, whatever happens to the business, the sole proprietor is responsible directly. So what they're giving you is that they're giving you a name to run a business. You and the business cannot be separated. So that's what that liability means. Profit and loss, the sole proprietor receives all the profits but also bears all the losses. So everything is with you. Taxation, business income is typically reported on the owner's personal tax return. So even your business income, it goes directly into your tax return. And so the income that comes to your business, you are expected to pay a tax of it as you, the owner, the sole proprietor of the business. But these things are different with a company. For a company owned business, the ownership structure is that shareholders own it, they hold shares of the company. So different people have different parts of the same company. Someone may have 20%, another person will have 15%, another person 10% of the business. Decision making is made by a board of directors who oversee major decisions, and uh, they are elected by the shareholders of the business. What that means is that you have a board of directors of, let's say, five people, and but the ownership of the business, the shareholders are 50 people, and these shareholders are the ones that determine who will be on the board of directors, and decision making is made by the board of directors and not just the largest shareholder, even though that person may have the capacity to veto or make better, stronger decisions, and also not just by one person in any way. The liability of a company, the shareholders' liability is limited to the extent of their investment, and so the liability that a shareholder bears is only to the extent of the investment that that shareholder has put in. So if I put in only 5%, I have the liability of worth 5%, but at the same time, it also means that I have whatever losses, whatever profits, whatever it is will come from that share. I have a part of it, 5% of it. Profit and loss, shareholders receive dividends and profits are reinvested or redistributed, and then taxation, corporate profits are taxed separately, dividends may be taxed at the individual level. So what that means is that when you have a dividend of the business, a part of the money from what has been made from the business has come to you, you may be taxed at that level. For partnership businesses, the ownership is a shared ownership between two or more individuals or entities. The decision making is partners typically participate in decision making based on the agreed terms. The liability, partners are personally liable for business debts and obligations. The profit and losses are shared according to the partnership agreement, and then partners report their shares of business income on their individual tax return. But what I would say pertaining the forms of business, whatever form of business you choose, especially when you are doing either a partnership or a company form of a business, I would strongly encourage that you find someone to give you legal advice. I would strongly encourage that you find somebody who can advise you. Don't go into any agreements that you do not clearly understand. I am going to have to repeat this. Don't go into any agreement that you do not clearly understand. In fact, do not be in any agreement that you did not contribute into that agreement. Don't be too quick to say, I'm so excited, I'm going to be making 250,000 naira from this business, so bring the papers, let me sign. The business may now turn out being worth 20 million naira a month, and then you're earning 250,000 and you're the one doing all the work. So it's something that you should be careful about. Always find someone when you do not understand the wordings of an agreement. Find someone that can help you interpret those wordings so that you know what you're doing. In summary of this session, what we have seen is that wage earners work for others, self employed people work for themselves, and a business solves a problem and creates wealth.